Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still repeating history on the price chart and is now starting a short-term relief from all of this bearish price action, which is exactly what we saw last time, while the price of Bitcoin is now bouncing from this crucial area of support on the price chart and is also getting extremely close to confirming this new signal that we need to pay attention to on the 3-day time frame, while right now, the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates across pretty much the entire market across many exchanges and now flipping negative, also a strong signal that we need to pay attention to, while Ethereum is perfectly bouncing from this critical area of support on the price chart, and the price of XRP is still not looking good on the larger time frames, but of course in the short term is having a slight relief alongside Bitcoin and the rest of the market. And so right now I have just taken a small amount of profits out of this XRP shorts position again, but still overall in the shorts position. So in just a moment, I'll be explaining my exact trading strategy and my next predictions moving forward for the market. So definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super chain indicator is still sitting in the red, indicating a larger correction or a larger bearish market. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence still playing out on the weekly time frame, not yet been invalidated. So keep that in mind. Not much has changed over the last 1 day on the weekly time frame. But if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now the price is still playing out this fractal pattern. In other words, the price is basically still a repeating history, playing out very similar price action right now compared to what we saw around April entering into May 2022. And so basically we're potentially at the stage right now in this fractal pattern where we were roughly the middle of May 2022, after we just saw obviously that massive drop, a very fast drop towards the downside, which came after obviously some choppy sideways price action slightly leaning in the bearish direction, which came after obviously the break back below that previous breakout, the previous resistance. And so obviously this is all still playing out very nicely here, very similar to what we saw last time, as I've been saying since basically the moment we broke back below 94,000. That was the moment where we started to play out the fractal and we were failing the breakout, therefore confirming ultimately more bearish price action still to come, which obviously since I've been saying that 94,000, that's exactly what we've seen as predicted. But right now, and as I've said just yesterday, recently here on the channel, my prediction right now is that this bearish price action right here, this extreme bearish price action, just for now, for the next few days, maybe the next couple of weeks, is likely over. Once again, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the bottom forever. I'm not saying that we can't go lower at some stage later on, but I am saying that just in the shorter term, for the next few days, maybe even the next 1 or 2 weeks, we'll likely either play out some choppy sideways price action or maybe just a slight little bounce, a slight little bullish relief. Basically, what we saw around second half of May entering into June 2022, we could potentially see something similar to that in the next couple of weeks or so. And now, once again, we did ultimately go lower later after we played out that slight relief over a couple of weeks. We ultimately went lower later on in June 2022. So just keep that in mind. Once again, I'm not saying this is the bottom. It is possible we could go lower at some stage later on, maybe in a couple of weeks from now, maybe in a month from now, sometime like that. But just in the shorter term, I do expect a little bit of a relief, a break from all of the bearish price action just for now. And that's also due to the fact that, of course, we've hit a major level of support based on these previous lows that we saw back in early April 2025. The exact lows, at least on this chart right here, was sitting at around 74.5K. And if we're looking at the candle close lows on the daily time frame, and looking at the candle closes here, those were sitting at around closer towards 76,000. So really in between around 74K to 76K. That's a crucial area, acting as significant support, as I've been saying here on the channel, before we even hit that area. And that's exactly where the price has bounced from. Obviously, once again, we have a lot of support in between at 74 to 76K. And as soon as the price entered into that exact area, so far at least, that's precisely where the price is bouncing from. And of course, we're not only running into major support here, we've also hit well into the oversold territories in the daily Bitcoin RSI, as I have mentioned over the last few days, obviously. And so, like I've said over over the last 1 to 2 days, now that we're hitting into oversold, and especially as we're running into this massive support at 74 to 76,000, we'll likely hold that as support and start just a slight relief. Once again, I'm not saying expect a massive bullish trend reversal, just a slight relief, which means either a slight bounce, a slight bullish move, or maybe just a bit of choppy sideways price action, because ultimately even some sideways price action over the next 1 or 2 weeks can help to reset the RSI out of oversold, which is very likely going to happen in the next couple of weeks here, which can technically give us more room towards the downside later on. Because if we're looking at the last couple of times we hit oversold in the daily Bitcoin RSI, the last time was around 20th of November to 23rd of November, give or take, and the time before that was end of February 2025. And if we're looking at the price, what happened next in the price of Bitcoin, yes, both of these times we did see a bit of a bounce in the short term over the next few days, over the next even 1 to 2 weeks or so. But obviously this is not necessarily confirming that the bottom is in place, because both of these times here, the price ultimately at some stage later on went lower. And so this is why it's very important to understand the difference between the different time frames. Of course, if we're looking at the bigger picture, the weekly time frame, which really tells us what to expect perhaps over the next multiple months, this is still not in the clear yet. We're still not looking good on the much larger time frames, but just in the shorter term for the next maybe couple of weeks, we could likely see a bit of a break and a relief from all of the bearish price action. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously we're running into this significant area of support in between really 72,000 to 76,000, a broader area on the price chart, which is based on obviously these previous lows that I just mentioned a moment ago back in around April 2025, and also based on previous significant resistance that we saw throughout early to mid 2024, obviously in between around 72k to 76k as a crucial area on the price chart. And we can see that at least for now, that's exactly where the price has bounced from. The moment the price entered into that area, we obviously perfectly started to bounce from that area. So I do expect this to hold as support at least over the next couple of weeks. Once again, I'm not saying it can hold forever. Maybe at some stage later on, we see a break to the downside, but at least in the next 1 or 2 weeks, I do expect this to hold as support and the price to remain above this area. And that also potentially means that we could soon confirm, it's not yet confirmed, but we could soon confirm this bullish divergence on the 3-day time frame, because at this stage we've basically already confirmed this lower low in place in the price in the 3-day time frame, but we still need to technically confirm the higher low in place in the 3-day Bitcoin RSI, which is currently forming but not yet confirmed. And of course, if we confirm this bullish divergence on the 3-day time frame, that is also another signal pointing towards a little bit more of a relief. Now, obviously, a bullish divergence doesn't always result in a massive bullish trend reversal. Sometimes it's just a shorter term relief during a larger bearish trend. So keep that in mind. Once again, bigger picture, not in the clear yet, but in the shorter term, things are starting to look okay in terms of obviously history repeating, most likely pointing towards at worst some choppy sideways price action. And of course, the price running into major support, hitting oversold, and potentially soon about to confirm this bullish divergence on the 3-day time frame, which is all pointing towards at worst maybe some choppy sideways price action, at best maybe a bit more of a bullish relief, not necessarily a massive reversal, but just a slight relief and a break from all of the bearish price action within the next couple of weeks is a very likely scenario. That is my exact prediction now moving forward. But if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously we still have some massive liquidity towards the downside at around 72k to 73k approximately. So definitely pay attention to that area on the price chart. But just in the meantime, obviously in the short term, I still expect a bit of a relief moving forward. So ultimately that's kind of just set aside for the moment, just for the meantime. But then maybe in a couple of weeks from now, maybe in a month from now, it is possible that we could still go lower at some stage later on to continue this larger bearish trend, in which case at that stage, maybe in a few weeks from now, for example, it's possible we could still wipe out that liquidity towards the downside. So something just to keep in mind, obviously, but obviously I've just said my prediction for at least the next 1 to 2 weeks here. And with that being said, if we're taking a really quick look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, we can see that right now, obviously a lot of these funding rates for Bitcoin and a lot of these altcoins across pretty much all of these exchanges are now flipping into the negative direction, which basically means a lot of the short positions, well, basically any of the short positions right now that are holding a short open with these negative funding rates are having to pay extra funding fees to keep those shorts open, whereas the long positions are actually earning those funding fees when the funding rates are negative. And so in other words, even if the price goes perfectly sideways, let's just say if the price of Bitcoin, for example, goes perfectly sideways, not up, not down, perfectly sideways, just from the funding fees alone, the short positions will be losing money and the long positions will be making money, even if the price does nothing, which obviously means it's slightly more beneficial at the moment to be in a long position if you think the price is either going to go sideways or even just slightly up. Obviously, of course, if the price still goes down, longs will still lose, shorts will still make money, but basically that is the current situation with the funding rates, which basically incentivizes more longs to open and more shorts to close. And that process of opening new long positions or closing existing shorts positions actually adds buying pressure to the market, which is yet another signal, another factor pointing towards a little bit of a relief in the coming days or weeks. Maybe a slight bullish bounce, a slight bullish relief, or at worst, some choppy sideways price action is likely, very likely going to be the case in the coming days or potentially the next couple of weeks. And so that's just another reason as to why I've just taken a small amount of profits out of this XRP short position over the last 1 day, slightly reducing the size of the trade, but still overall in the shorts position, just to a lesser degree right now. So in just a moment, I'll be explaining exactly what is my trading strategy for XRP when I'm talking about XRP just later in this video, so definitely stick around. But first, if you want to be actually set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here for XRP over on the 2bit crypto exchange, so I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below the video in the description and in the pinned comment. In fact, it'll be the first link below the video that will take you to this page right here over on the 2bit crypto exchange, showing that 2bit just recently partnered with La Liga, so there's currently a limited time event happening right now with up to 800,000 USDT in prizes just by simply trading crypto using that first link below the video. So especially if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out, take advantage of some major prizes over here just by trading crypto using that link once again. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and right now obviously the Bitcoin dominance is continuing a slight bullish move in the shorter term, which means a lot of the major altcoins are slightly underperforming Bitcoin, so doing a little bit worse than whatever Bitcoin is doing. And in fact, right now, as of recording this video, the Bitcoin dominance is running into a bit of short-term resistance here at pretty much exactly 60% in the Bitcoin dominance. But if we continue a breakout past 60%, in that situation, would likely see another 0.5% move towards the upside, up towards 60.5% to 61%, which is the next significant area of resistance to watch out for the Bitcoin dominance. And so potentially, while we're playing out that slight bullish move, once again, that means likely a lot of the major altcoins will slightly underperform Bitcoin. So for example, if Bitcoin has a slight little bounce in the short term, maybe some altcoins just go sideways or maybe bounce, but to a lesser degree, is basically what this is telling us right now for the Bitcoin dominance. But then as the Bitcoin dominance runs into this significant resistance, obviously there is a real possibility we could see a struggle or rejection from around that area on the price chart, which basically means a lot of altcoins might have a slight little rebound against Bitcoin. But basically, do not expect any major altcoin season anytime soon is essentially what this is telling us right now for the Bitcoin dominance. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, right now the price of ETH is perfectly bouncing from this exact Fibonacci area of support on the price chart, which is sitting in between around 2150 to 2250. And this is an area that I've been talking about for a while now on the channel since before we even hit that area. And obviously right now we're perfectly bouncing from that exact area. And just like Bitcoin obviously bouncing from this exact support level here, we're also bouncing and playing out an oversold signal in the daily Ethereum RSI, just like Bitcoin playing out an oversold signal in the daily Bitcoin RSI. So ultimately, these are signals pointing towards most likely either a slight bounce like this, or maybe just some choppy sideways price action as really the most likely outcomes, playing out this oversold signal and holding above this support, at least in the coming days or possibly weeks. But remember, we can see those sort of things play out during this much larger multi-month bearish trends, just like what we saw here, for example, around mid to late November. We hit oversold in the RSI, ran into a major point of support here. And yes, in the coming days, in the next couple of weeks, we did see a decent little bounce, a slight little relief in the shorter term, but obviously, that was not necessarily the end of this larger bearish trend. We ultimately went lower later on at some stage. And so once again, understand the difference between the different timeframes, the bigger picture, the longer term trend. We're still not in the clear yet. We're still not looking too good, but the short term situation during the larger trend is starting to look okay. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Ethereum price chart, similar to the 3-day time frame for Bitcoin, obviously right now the price of ETH is running into this significant area of support based on a lot of support previously over the last multiple years, sitting in between around 2.2k to 2.4k, but especially at give or take 2.2k, that's a significant area on the price chart to pay attention to, which for now is still being held as support. And we're also forming, not yet confirmed, but forming a bullish divergence on the 3-day Ethereum price chart, with of course lower lows in the price and higher lows currently forming in the RSI, which of course still needs to be confirmed. But just like the bullish divergence for Bitcoin on the 3-day time frame, if this confirms for Ethereum in the coming days, then of course this is another signal pointing towards a little bit more of a relief, most likely in the next couple of weeks is a very likely scenario. Remember, not necessarily a massive high momentum reversal towards the upside, but at least a short-term relief is quite likely, especially if this confirms in the coming days. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, obviously Solana is also pretty much perfectly bouncing from this exact level of support here based on this previous low, sitting at around $95. So around $95 to $96 based on this previous low. Once again, we have a lot of support around there. And if we're looking at where the price bounced from, it was pretty much exactly $96. So within $1 from this support level, from this previous low. So obviously we still have a lot of support there, but as I've been saying here on the channel, really in between $95 to $100, that's the area of support to watch out for, which once again is exactly where the price just bounced from, alongside of course playing out an oversold signal here in the 2-day Solana RSI, which is yet another signal pointing towards either a slight little bounce or maybe just some choppy sideways price action in the coming days or possibly weeks as a very likely scenario. Basically just following very similar price action to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the market. And so honestly, that is my prediction right now for Solana, just in the shorter term. But of course, the longer term trends, the bigger picture, we're still not in the clear yet. It's basically the exact same thing as what I've been saying throughout the video for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So without wasting your time, getting straight into the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, of course, we're still playing out this massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, which is still active, not yet been invalidated, which means of course the bigger picture, the multi-month bearish trend, still not in the clear yet, still not confirmed the end of this larger bearish trend. But obviously at give or take $1.60, we are finding a bit of support around this level based on this previous Fibonacci level here. And if we see a further breakdown, the next significant area on the price chart to watch out for is still in between around $1.30 to $1.40. And if the price breaks below $1.30, in that situation, we'll likely see a move down towards in between 90 cents to $1. But obviously we still have those support levels first to watch out for above that much lower price target. And remember, this larger bearish trend does not play out just in a straight line. We can see little bounces and reliefs along the way towards the downside here and there in the short term on the smaller time frames. That's potentially what is happening right now and is likely going to continue just in the shorter term for the next few days, potentially the next couple of weeks. And that's due to a few different factors. First of all, of course, XRP, along with a lot of major altcoins, follow very similar price action to whatever Bitcoin is doing, especially if the Bitcoin dominance is relatively neutral, which means, of course, like I said earlier in the video with my prediction, with Bitcoin most likely going to play out just a slight little relief in the shorter term, we'll likely see something similar to that for XRP in the short term based on that reason alone. But on top of that, obviously, we're also hitting oversold and playing out an oversold signal in the daily XRP RSI. And the last time we saw this, we did see at least a shorter term relief, not the end of the larger bearish trends, but just a bit of a break in the short term from all of the bearish price action. And then once again, as I just said a moment ago, at give or take $1.60, we do have a bit of support that we're developing around there. And once again, as I also said in this video, we have a lot of these funding rates flipping negative, which is just a bit of a bullish signal to watch out for a lot of these cryptos right here. And so due to all of these reasons, of course, I've just taken a little bit more profits out of this XRP short position. So originally, obviously it started out originally as a $50,000 trade, and then it went up to a $100,000 XRP short position. And as of recording this video, it's now around a 40 to 42,000 USDT XRP shorts position, with currently still around 1,800 USDT in unrealized profit, and now about 4,800, almost 5,000 USDT in realized profit, already secured profit. And so basically I just utilized this double dip over the last one day as an extra opportunity to take a little bit more profits off the table due to the reasons that I've discussed in this video. And of course, I already talked about over the last couple of days, which I said over the last couple of days in my last couple of videos, get ready, very soon it will likely start to play out. A slight little relief is a very likely scenario. And right now, this is basically starting to play out as predicted and will likely play out in the coming days or potentially weeks. So that's just another reason as to why obviously I took a little bit more profits out of this short position. But you can obviously notice that I've not closed the entire trade. I'm still in this short position to some degree, just a lesser degree, due to the fact that, of course, the bigger picture for XRP still not looking too good, which means maybe in the coming days or possibly weeks, let's just say if we see a little bit more of a bounce here, I may look to add to this short position or open a new short position, etc., to potentially still trade a much larger move towards the downside in the next potentially couple of months for the price of XRP, because considering once again the bigger picture still not looking too good, it's just a short-term situation, we'll likely see a little bit of a relief. And so that's a quick update on my exact trading strategy for the price of XRP, revealing and sharing with you exactly how I'm making money in this crypto market no matter what direction the price goes. So obviously if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos where I'm sharing all of this information completely for free on YouTube when a lot of other people out there charge for this information. But with that being said, getting straight into the price of Chainlink on the weekly time frame, taking a really quick look here, because over the last one day, technically we saw a weekly candle close just a couple of cents below $9.50, but overall, obviously considering the context throughout the video and the rest of the crypto market likely going to play out a slight little relief, it is quite likely that in the coming days or possibly weeks, the price of Chainlink will likely continue to hold this area or around this area as support at roughly around $9.50. And so in other words, just obviously expect a very similar price action for Chainlink right now as what I've been saying throughout the video in the short term. But if we're looking at the longer term, the bigger picture, the larger situation that we're in right now, obviously we're not in the clear yet. We're far from confirming any strong bullish reversal out of this much larger bearish trend and this larger bearish price structure, which is indeed a head and shoulders pattern basically formed at this point. But ideally we need to see a bit more confirmation here, and obviously once again for at least the next 1 or 2 weeks we'll likely see a little bit more of a relief in the short term. But maybe in a month from now, for example, if we ultimately continue this larger bearish move towards the downside with another leg down, in that situation would likely and very easily see a move down towards $8 to $8.50, and if that fails to hold as support, in that situation we could likely see a move all the way down towards around $5 to $5.50. But once again, at least in the short term for the next 1 to 2 weeks or so, I do expect just a slight little relief in the short term here. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, no matter what direction the price goes, make sure to check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to take advantage of extra bonuses that you can claim using those links below the video just by trading and depositing crypto. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well take advantage of those extra bonuses using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto like what I'm doing right now to easily profit in the crypto market no matter what direction the price goes, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.